It would be considered fate by many, how the 7 boys seemed to all gather at the right time, with no particular correlation. Many would say it was meant to be, with what all things had happened that led them to stand together. But that wasn't true. It wasn't written in the stars for them to meet. They weren't brought together by some natural forces. Even though all of that would sound as poetic as people made it out to be, Kim Namjoon personally believed it was much simpler than that. Coincidence. See, it instantly became much less shiny, much more mundane. But that was the reality, and no matter how much Namjoon wanted to present it beautifully, it was just how things were. It was not his fate to watch epic highs fly and feel the urge to speak his mind, translating it all to immature raps. It was not his fate to find joy in it, to start with the name Runch Ronda and become someone in the hip-hop community. It was not his fate to catch eyes of Sleepy, to be introduced to Bang Shi-hyuk, and impress him so highly Namjoon was signed on the spot. It was simply not his fate to have his original team leave one by one until only he was left, and then have 6 new members that would make up for all the losses he had seen till now. It just happened. A coincidence more than anything. But he cherished that coincidence. He built around it. He molded it until it became bigger than anything he had ever anticipated. Namjoon could still remember how bleak it had felt to dream alone, to be left behind by those who no longer had faith in that dream. That chill would seep into his bones until he believed that his dream was truly not achievable, that what he was reaching for was not meant for people like him. He believed in his incompetence. He believed in his idiocy. He believed in his purposelessness until he had 6 others to take care of. He could not let them know his thoughts, because then they would believe in their failure. Then they would believe in their impossibility. And Namjoon could not do that. He could not make these 6 innocent eyes see the darkness he had seen for years. He could not let them hear the silence he had heard even in sleep. So he pretended to be strong, to know what he was doing, to believe. Yoongi had known what it meant to do things that were not approved by your family, that were not supported by the society, and that were not viewed as acceptable. He had known the struggles he had to face, and yet he had gone ahead and took his decision, doing one thing he loved, despite how stagnant his life sometimes seemed to be. He had seen the flyer by chance, not giving it a second thought before he was entering the competition and getting crowned second place. It had been a big change in his otherwise routine life, and when Bang Shi-hyuk had signed him as a producer, Yoongi had felt happiness like never before. He was allowed to do what he loved. He was encouraged to do what he loved. And then he had been requested to join a K-pop group. You see, Yoongi had no way been prejudiced against the idols who would go stage their pretty faces and vibrant hair. He just knew that a lifestyle like that would tire him out so much that he wouldn't be able to do what he came for. Bang Shi-hyuk promised that he only had to produce the songs, that he would only be asked to make music and nothing else. Yoongi was made to meet Namjoon, the young man with wild hair but kind eyes, a tall, built but small smile. It had been hard to say no to him, and Yoongi had sighed before agreeing, but not before making sure that he would not be made to dance or put on makeup. That had all gone out the window only a few months later, but Yoongi could not back out then. Not because he was desperate to work in the company. He never needed someone to help him carry his dreams. No. The reason was, where once used to be one kind pair of eyes, there were now 6. Where once used to be one small smile, there were 6 different kinds now. And though Min Yoongi loved his work, he was also starting to love this new-found family now. Everyone had a way to express themselves, to let out the feelings that couldn't be said. Young Hoseok had dance. It had started only as a way to let out his frustrations, to see himself get better in at least one thing while he was criticized for not being academically excellent. It had been an outlet, while also being something to be proud of. And soon enough, Smile Hoya was born. He was a name that had spread quickly, giving Hoseok the opportunities that had been previously locked away or rumored to not even exist. He had found people who had a similar form of expression, who felt the song with their heart and let their words out with their body. They were all a little different, a little unique, but in the end, they all had one language: dance. And that one language had landed him in the laps of Big Hit. It was a small company with even smaller staff. Though Hoseok had blown the competition away in a breeze, he had still not been able to take other companies out of his mind, especially JYP, which had earlier eliminated him. It wasn't that Hoseok saw no potential in this company. He just did not see how he could express himself in a place like this. He had met Yoongi then, the rapper with a small face that reminded Hoseok of a cat, but with a voice that spoke of maturity and experience. He had met Namjoon after, a small boy not much younger than himself, but looking so innocent, so hopeful, and yet so lost. Namjoon had urged him, requested him, begged him not to leave Bangtan. Hoseok had told him his reasons, had voiced what dance meant to him and how he could not see it fitting with the vision of Bangtan. But Namjoon had assured them that Hoseok would find his expression in Bangtan, that he would find his language in their team. He had agreed then, not with the hope that Namjoon was right, but by the sheer fire he saw in the younger. Hoseok knew that things would definitely change, but maybe these 6 boys that he later got to know would help him enrich his language instead of stifle it. After all, expressions were not meant to be held captive, but instead to spread, to preach. And these 6 boys seemed eager to understand his expression. Seokjin was always told that opportunities would not present itself. You need to look for it. That the chance to change your life or someone else's will not walk up to you by yourself. That the doorway to the path that would lead him to his goal would not magically appear before him. He had not paid much attention to those words, not because he thought any less of them, but simply because, for the longest time, he had no particular goal. He had interests, and he had the desire to live a peaceful, happy life, but he never had an ingrained goal that many his age had. So he never sought out opportunities, never went looking for them, but it seemed that it was opportunities that had a strange affinity to him. First, it had been SM. If he had been more focused or passionate, maybe Seokjin would be an EXO. But the loss of that opportunity had not hurt him in any way, and as years passed by, Seokjin forgot almost about it all, until he was being approached again, this time by a much smaller company. But unlike before, he now was not unaware of the entertainment industry. Unlike before, he now had a vague idea of what he wanted in life. Seokjin got back to Big Hit with the intent of walking down the path he had chosen for himself, looking forward to the opportunity that had presented itself. Acting had found him like Big Hit had, taken him off guard, but also made him curious. Theater was familiar now, and Seokjin had wanted to see how further he could take this option. But when he didn't get the option of what he wanted, Seokjin had felt betrayed, maybe even cheated. But he had not left. Opportunities weren't always black and white. Neither were they straight to walk on. They might had presented easily to Seokjin, but they were not going to be easy. This one was the same. a twisted pathway in front of him that Seokjin didn't know where it will lead. Seokjin was not someone who bent for others, but he was someone who would go the extra mile for people he adored and cherished. And the boys that had slowly trickled in as Seokjin was reluctantly training were quickly becoming that cherished lot. He had not wanted to make emotional connections, but some things were inevitable. He knew he did not owe Big Hit or these 6 boys anything, but he owed this opportunity. And Kim Seokjin was anything but ungrateful for things that were gifted to him.